You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from SIBO. The Option Block is brought to you by SIBO. SIBO's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.sibo.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of CBOE Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively CBOE. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the CBOE products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It is time to kick off our broadcast week here on the old Options Insider Radio Network. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you're feeling a little better than I am right now. Kicking off the new year, fighting off something that, of course, immediately goes to attack my throat, as is my luck in life these days. I'm going to be struggling to power through this week, but I'm here for you folks, listeners, and of course, if you want to join us on the full network, make sure you're subscribed to the full network. And if you want to join us for pro Q&As, oddities, all sorts of great fun. Man, we had a banger on oddities last week. Matt was just going off on just crazy calendars. It was pretty much a master class in put calendars and talking about quantum computing strangles and straddles. It was wild. It was a wild time. If you're not listening to oddities alone, man, we love all of it. We love the pro Q&As. But if you're not at least tuning into oddities, you are truly missing out. Man, some of those things we talked about on this show, those trades and the quantum stuff, just mind-boggling, crazy how well they worked out so quickly, too. Crazy. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. Welcome to all of you folks who joined us during the holiday season. Glad to see so many folks taking advantage of that. You know, maybe in 2025, I will beat the drum for that a little more. I kind of kept it as a fun little secret. A fun little secret just among us friends here, because it's a cool group of people we like to have in there, and it's a great time. I feel like a lot of you could get a lot of value out of it. So check it out over there. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go. As it is a Monday episode, we are joined once again by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, as well as by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. Now, this is normally where I would fire up the 80s Trivia Challenge music, and we would begin our contests for the year. Of course, we know coming at the end of the year, a commanding victory by the uncleist of Mike's, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw, yet again, our returning champion. So I have two duties in front of me now. First off, I need to determine a suitable prize for the uncleist of Mike's. In the past, I've come up with some pretty cool 80s wrestling-related fun stuff. I might still do that again, Uncle Mike. Of course, I am out in your neck of the woods every quarter, roughly, it seems like now, a couple of times a year. So I could always maybe swing by and treat Uncle Mike to a fantabulous dinner somewhere or lunch somewhere, too, if you would prefer that. Maybe I'll leave that up to him. But if he likes the fun 80s, he's got icy belts now. He has a cool, I think the Uncle or Meatball took home in the Sergeant Slaughter the year before. Rock Lobster, of course, still winless in our contest. Which brings me to the next thing I'm wrestling with in this contest. I love it. I'm having fun. I know a lot of the listeners do. Let's just say 80s trivia, maybe not the Rock Lobster strong suit. Not crushing it. Not knocking the cover off the ball out there. So I would like to go forward with this contest in some capacity. If you two folks are still up to competing in it. And then B, maybe we make some allowances for the Rock Lobster going for it. I'm not going to say we give him double points, but maybe we go like 1.5 points to make things competitive. What do you think? Uncle Mike, are you down for that, or you want to just keep wrecking shop with the Rock Lobster?
I'll do whatever. I will yield to the Rock Lobster. I want to be. I'm a sportsman.
You don't want to keep mauling the handicapped child at the end of the day, Mr. Rock Lobster, sir. You want a little bit of a boost? We could try. How about we try it for the first half of the year and see how you do? And then if the boost is working, maybe we dial it back. If it's not working, we'll think of something else.
No.
No? All right.
No.
All right. I respect that.
Just a flat out no.
All right.
No.
I was kind of hoping you would say that. I was hoping
there was plenty of questions I could have got right that for some reason obviously being old does not have its advantages, but I'm going to take some of that ginseng and see if we turn things around this year.
All right. I was half hoping that you would get your dander up a little bit and say no, and that's exactly what you did. So I respect you for that. If you took the 0.5 point boost, I would have been like, oh, Rock Lobster getting soft in his old age there. But no, he's still got some fight in him. All right, I respect that.
And you know what? It will make the victory all the more sweeter that I can go back and I can mark this date, January 13th, where I was awarded some 0.5 point participation trophy crap. So we'll see. Now,
are we starting from zero now? Or what are we?
Yes, we are starting. It is a new year. It is a new contest, sir, starting from zero.
Okay. All right.
I will make a note of it, though. In the log, it is officially noted, Mr. Rock Lobster, that you have refused your 0.5 point bonus. So just to let the world know, Rock Lobster, he refused it. 0.5 point bonus. There you go. We can respect that over there. All right, so we will continue the contest. I will bring you fresh new trivia questions starting next week. We will start it next week. This week, though, Mr. Uncle Mike, you are our winner from last year. So you get a bonus while I'm figuring out what a sweet, sweet prize would be for you. Is that you get to pick our first Pro Trading Crate winner of the new year. Are you ready, sir?
I am ready.
All right, I'm going to fire up my random number generator. You know, this requires a little music. Let's do a little, how about that? Let's do a little bit of the Jeopardy music for the Pro Trading Crate. How about that? Because we don't know. We don't know who's going to win the Pro Trading Crate. Let's just turn it down. There we go. All right, Mr. Uncle Mike, the random number generator is going. When you feel the need for speed, you just tell me, and then
Not yet. Now!
Oh, bam. There we go. Look at that. Reflexes like a cat. All right, Mr. Uncle Mike. I've got to keep on rolling here. Let's see. What number did you pick? Got new numbers here. This is nice. Nice to see so many new people joining up. Welcome again to all you folks who joined us over the holiday season. All right, who did you pick? I'm buying time while I can figure out who that person is. All right, there we go. Oh, this is the boxer, Joe Louis. Mighty Joe Louis is in our pro camp, and you are the winner of the final Pro Trading Crate of 2024. Congratulations to you, Joe Louis. If you're in the live, our producers will hit you up. If you're not, of course, they'll hit you up via your members' details, and they will reach out to you to discuss the items for your bespoke, one-off, completely unique Pro Trading Crate. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to everyone who played in December. Get your name in the hat now, listeners, to play in January. Trust me, these are all pretty freaking cool. You want to get your hands on one of these. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more as we go on into our trading block to kick off our first full trading week of the new year. Here we go.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, listeners, let's get down to business. And business has been kind of weird. Certainly for the last few weeks, month and change out here. It's been weird ever since the election, really. We kicked things off. Super crazy, supercharged rally in everything, in the markets and crypto, just about every asset you could think of, outside of maybe some of the risk-averse flight to quality type assets. Now, as we come into what's really our first full trading week of the new year, all of that is gone, at least in the equities. The entirety of the post-election Trump rally has been wiped out in the major indices. And coming into today, it seemed like we were heading for a lot of red to kick off the new year. In fact, the S&P was well below 5,800 to kick off the day today. Got down to, looks like around 5,780 in that ballpark. Things were looking pretty dire. VIX cash actually skyrocketing up to north of 20, up to about 22, almost exactly early this morning. So things were looking kind of dire to kick off this trading week. As we're coming into the show, VIX cash was still north of 20. Right as we were kicking off the show, about 20 and 3/4, right before it. It has come in now, is at about a 20 even as we kicked off the show now. So it has come in 2 points off the high. It's still up 4 1/4 points from where it was on our last show. So VIX is still looking frothy, but coming in a little bit off its highs today. That's because the S&P is starting to claw its way back north of 5,800 right now, right around 5,815 or so. So it's still down about 0.2 of a point, but it was down over 0.5 percentage point not too long ago. The Dow, the one thing bucking the trend today, up about 0.5%. It's been green pretty much all day. The NASDAQ was off over a full percent. Now starting to claw its way back a little bit as well, off about 0.75%. That still put VIX cash at about a 20 even. Like I said, when we kicked off the show, if you rack it right now, it's down to about 19.5. So that puts it up about 3 3/4 points from where it was on the Thursday show, but still frothy, still juicy. VVIX, like I said, was 115. It got up to about 122.5 today on the VVIX front. So things were looking pretty frothy earlier this morning. Again, could this just be the pause? Are the bulls trying to battle their way back? Are we going to close green on the day? Or are we going to just go right back down? That's kind of what we did on Friday. We tried to rally and then right back down to close near the bottoms again. Will that happen again today? It is anyone's guess. As our victor in last year's challenge, he shall go first again. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir. Not really an Uncle Mike type of day, but it's starting to trend in your favor. What's catching your eye, sir?
Well, I think what's catching my eye right now is just the intraday action with which we're having in the market as a whole. We started the day out, we gapped down. S&P had lows of 57.73. We're back up to 58.16. And so we've had a pretty nice rally throughout the day today. And it looks like the trend intraday is going higher. Now, of course, anything can happen. It is intraday trading. And you don't want to, I don't personally think too much of that. But so far on the day, if there's a reason to be optimistic, by gosh, I'm going to find it. Some things that are catching my eye right now. Silver is back down to around the 27 level. So we're getting a little bit of a sell-off there. VIX was actually up at 22 for a little while today, but now it's back in the mid-19s. Always curious to hear Andrew's take on that. And then the fruit company, Apple, actually got down to 229 at one point today. So a lot of selling going on there on the things with which we own, we look at, and that type of thing. Some other names that are popping off and on my screen, of course, we have NVIDIA. That's down 2.5% on the day. It's hard to have an up day when NVIDIA is down 2.5% on the day, seeming as that's kind of where it goes with everything. And final thing that I'm noticing, and maybe I want to rub salt into people's wounds, but what's it called? It's that new thing that all the weirdos came out with, oh yeah, Bitcoin. Just looking at IBIT, Bitcoin is down 3% on the day. So it's hard to say what direction the market's going to go at this point, because you think, okay, maybe we're at a top and maybe it is time to pull back a little bit. But then there's these names that just kind of keep on fighting. McDonald's is up, for example. JP Morgan is up. So we have some names that are still in there fighting on the side of the bulls, but we're getting some of the tech names that are making this thing go down. But overall, if you add everything up, we're down 13 points on the day. So not a huge move. And that's what I'm seeing right now.
Does it give you any pause, sir, that we have given up pretty much the entirety of the post-election rally in just a week or two, sir?
I would say no, because I wouldn't necessarily look at it as a post-election rally. I would look at it as the fact where we're 5% off the all-time highs. And markets have got to pull back at some point. When you have 20% plus years in a row, I don't think a 5% pullback's that big of a deal, election or no election.
All right, spoken like a true perma bull. Mr. Rock Lobster, you're usually a little bit more cynical. These days, you've been kind of weirdly optimistic, which is throwing me off my whole game, but that's a conversation for another day. What is catching your eye out there in at least for not for right now, Uncle Mike type of day, but it is trending in his favor?
By the way, how come we didn't have a quiz question today?
I said we wanted to figure out what we wanted to do. I wasn't sure. I said we will have one next week. I wanted to figure out first what you folks wanted to do.
I think the easiest thing to do is just you take a box from 1980s Trivial Pursuit, just a box of questions, and then every week Tosaw and I pick before, like, it's entertainment, it's sports, whatever you want. Or we randomly generate which one, and then just read one. Pick one out.
I can probably.
Yeah, that's not fair.
Oh, that's not fair? He doesn't like it?
No.
Okay. Tosaw
is
out. He says no.
I don't think I could win. That's why I don't think it's fair. I don't play for ties. I play to win.
When the subject is 80s wrestling and, Patriots football from 1982.
Well, to be fair, I only did a couple of wrestling things. I tried to very sparingly sprinkle in the wrestling.
You're from New England. You should know 1982 80s Patriots trivia, and it was 1985, by the way.
I've only spent 40% of my life in New England.
That's 40% more than me.
And to be honest, I really don't watch very much professional sports anymore. So anyway, what's going on in the markets? And you're like, a lot of that rally, I think, was a lot of euphoria, and mostly I think people were pretty happy because the election happened. Oh, and this is going to shock everybody. We counted the votes, and there was a winner. Like, all of a sudden, this country, which can do all kinds of great stuff, can't really, as we have seen, sadly, can't do basic democratic functions sometimes, which I'm just going to say it's the people in charge. I don't know. Call me crazy. No matter who they are. I think there was a very large relief rally on that news. And then I think the reality of governance, which is always the devil in the details, kind of bit everybody. And we still have a Congress, Republican, Democrat. I'm trying to think of a more useless body on the planet, but I know there are worse politicians than what we have. So I guess that's a bright spot for us. But getting them to, get spendings back to 2020 levels, let's say, as we've talked on the show many times, what they're spending the money on, who's benefiting. It's hard to tell who's actually benefiting anymore from all the money being spent. So I think the reality of runaway government spending, the inertia, rates going straight up again, even though the Fed is trying. The Fed basically has lost control of the bond market, I think, at this point. Again, all these things can be remedied by political will, again, which we know here, at least the three of us on this channel, we see very little of that coming out of politicians. They're good at being on TV and blaming people for other stuff, but ultimately, The government it just spends much more money than they take in. And at some point it's going to stop, whether the bond market makes it stop or some other catastrophe makes it stop. But I think that is where so the equity markets kind of just pause. Like Mike said, we're at all-time highs, back-to-back 20% years, 20% plus years. Q up 30% in 2024. There's some people are looking, you're looking at your 401k, you're gaining holy gosh, right? So there's nothing wrong with stocks pulling back, especially when there's no really good reason for them to rally anymore. I mean, how much can we rally on the promise of AI? The promise of NVIDIA selling, somewhere near the amount of chips relative to their market cap right now. Stuff like that. So I just think things run out of steam after a while, and 6,000 is running out of steam. That's the running out of steam number. For whatever reason, the market picks these numbers, and it just happens to be 6,000 right now. What do we need to get over that? We need more great earnings. We need a Congress with their heads screwed on straight. We need the new administration to do things that are positive, that are economically positive. Maybe a little less global strife. Who knows? But for the most part, you have to think the globe itself never been more prosperous. Human beings never had it better, at least standard of living and people above the poverty line. These are all good things, positive, great things. But as our own country goes, you can screw up a good thing. And at this point, I would just say this was the first, probably since 2022, I would say, this is a solid hesitation, right? Where everybody's like, wait a minute. For a while, we glossed over the fact that our politicians are all greedy. And now, especially congressmen, they're the worst. And now we're like, let's see what they can do. So I think at this point, we'll have an inauguration, we'll have a new president, and we'll see what they can do. And what that does to the markets in general remains to be seen. But I think the markets want to rally. The way VIX has operated, I don't think there's. If anything, I don't think the VIX move was very big relative to sort of the realized vol on SPX. Like realized vol just totally jumped, and it really hasn't been the same since December 18th when we had that kind of surprise sell-off right before Christmas. Again, on rates, right? The surprise of rates, the bond market doing weird stuff, really kicks equities around quite a bit. And we're still seeing that. And is it going to go away anytime soon? I don't know. If you start to hear the right language out of some of these Congress people, you could see it. But right now, from VIX, where I sit, VIX being 19.5, it opened up higher today in the 21 handle or so. A little bit of weekend effect, but a little bit of like a bid for vol. And it just, it hasn't been able to hold up to the next level higher. And I would say, let me see here. The last thing I want to say is our volatility curve here was pretty flat this morning, which is more a signal of ambivalence and volatility, meaning the market doesn't know, I say a flat curve generally means traders aren't really leaning long vol or short VIX. Like I would say long VIX or short VIX. And I like Russell's definition that $1 move or $1 between the front end and the back end with VIX cash, in between the front and back end of volatility somewhere. I mean, that's a wide range, but it's basically $1 wide. And that's where we're sitting right now it was about 45 minutes ago. And as I look now, we're about in the same position, although the curve is starting to drift back into a little bit of a contango with VIX cash relatively elevated in the short term. So we're waiting for, if we have a decent or an expected CPI number, stocks probably will bounce a little bit. If inflation is markedly worse, maybe 0.1, 0.2%, something like that, we could be down another 100 points SPX pretty easily. So I think the market's waiting for a pretty decent candle on SPX based on whatever the inflation number comes in. So, I think right now VIX kind of feels fairish at 19. But if there's no real follow through from CPI number, we could easily see 17, 16.5 by the end of the week, just because that's still 1% per day on average, which is pretty good movement. But if there's no downside catalyst anymore, again, we're back to waiting for earnings, because we also have, big banks are going to start reporting. If bank earnings are pretty decent, it's very hard for VIX to just have a crazy sell off when bank earnings are decent. They generally report first before big tech. So I think VIX is higher because it should be higher, because the market's moving more. It's been moving for since December 18th, when everybody started to lose it on rates. And that's pretty much the day when all the new administration euphoria wore off, because reality, the reality of trying to make things better from a U.S. government point of view is very difficult. It's not impossible, but as we have seen over the last, doing the show for 14 years, or Mark, you're doing it, 15, 16, 18 years? When has government spending gone down? Never. So
hard to get reelected when you cut spending, it seems like, for these guys.
Yeah, I'll just take flat. I'll take 1 year where it doesn't go up. But that's again, it's probably opportunity. And I think those California fires, they're terrible. And they add a lot to negative sentiment in the market, because you got to be honest, nobody likes looking at it. It's pretty awful. People are losing their homes. It kind of reminds me that, what was that, Deepwater Horizon? Remember that oil rig where they had that nasty leak and it just lasted for weeks and weeks and weeks, and the market just sold off for no reason. Basically, it's just that the disaster function of it. It gets people kind of in a grumpy mood, and they just don't buy stocks. And I think this is, I hope the fire gets put down as soon as possible. I think, but that contributes to sort of, that sentiment's just a little bit weaker. It's not sell-off sentiment, but it nonetheless, it's not a good sentiment. It kind of casts a pall over things. And I probably talked too long, but anyway, that's where I'm on it.
Day like today, when I have no voice, sir, you are welcome to talk as much as you like here, as I rest up for a week's worth of talk, and this is going to be a long slog. So it's like the disease gods know exactly where to attack me. Like, go right for his throat. That's the moneymaker.
Where he makes his living.
Exactly. Attack him right in the moneymaker. But you know what, listeners? I like you folks, and the producers don't care that I can't speak. They say, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead for you, sir. So I'll be on the mic for you folks this week, so stay tuned. See if I make it. Let's take a poll. See how long I make it throughout the week here, listeners. But I tried to rest all weekend, didn't say much, just so I could save all my precious words for you folks. All right, let's get out to the markets out here today, listeners. Let's go out, see what we got. Is it a banger day? We started off hot in the red direction. That usually means a hot start out of the gate for VIX. Did we see that? The answer is yeah. It's looking pretty robust right now. The ADV is back up to 740, so it's gaining back a lot of what it lost in the seasonality towards the end of the year. And today, right now, 680,000 contracts on the tape, including the big dog, the Feb 15 put, 70,000 of those bad boys trading for 26 cents. Also worth noting, number two, 46,000 of the Jan 17 puts, also for 26 cents. Which kind of got me scratching my chin, saying, Feb 15 puts or Jan expiring on the 22nd, 17 puts for 26 cents. Gun to your head, listeners, which of those would you rather buy? So I thought we'd put it out to you folks. And we are doing that right now with a fun little flash poll. Mr. Rock Lobster, gun to your head. Jan 17 puts expiring on the 22nd or the Feb 15 puts expiring on the 19th. Which one are you buying? Gun to your head, sir.
Oh, wow, because they're both around 35 cents, right?
They both traded 26 cents this morning.
Oh, yeah. I think the 17 puts will pay.
All right, you're going Jan. And right now, our flash poll just went live, listeners. You can play. We'll make it go a little longer so you folks on the podcast can play too. Right now, it just split. It was 100% for the Jan. Now we got 50-50 as people are starting to come in saying you got a choice. Jan puts, the Feb 15 puts, or neither, or you want to buy that diagonal for no money, a free diagonal. What can go wrong, right? Buy the Feb 15 puts for 26 cents, sell the Jan 17 puts for 26 cents if you're feeling feisty. We'll let you know the results. We'll revisit that in a little bit. But VIX out of the gate hot. SPY following suit, 6.5 million. The ADV 8.27 million. The S 1.95 million. The ADV 3.36 million. The small caps rampaging. 1.25 million contracts already. The ADV 1.65 million. The Qs, man, we have to change our numbers soon for the Qs. The Qs hot, 3.15 million. This is usually where we expect them to be, around 2.25. Nearly 1 million contracts above that. Of course, the Qs were falling out of bed. Excuse me. Earlier this morning. Expect a lot of that as we go on with the week, listeners. A lot of surprise coughing. Too quick for the old cough button. I look forward to a lot of that fun this week, listeners. The ADV 4.22 million. Out to the single names we go, listeners. Number 10 cost you $228,000 to break into the top 10 today. That's not much given everything else we're seeing out there. It looks like a day where everyone's kind of fixated on the macro stuff for obvious reasons. Meta 607 even, off nearly $9 or about 1.5%. So Mela, easy for me to say. Meta selling off about 228,000 contracts, near 1.5%. For the number 10 spot, yes, it's our old pal, the artist formerly known as Facebook. Number 9, the Amazonians. Kind of unched now after hitting a low of 216.5 today. 218.91 right now, so they're fighting their way back. 260K on the tape for them at number 9. Number 8, I got a feeling we're going to be hearing about this name for the next 4 years. This is DJT, popping nearly $5, 485, trading 14.15 right now. 40.15, excuse me, up about 14%. Just a wild name. Why is it moving today? Dogs and cats living together. This name never makes any sense. But yeah, putting up some paper today. 262,000 contracts on the tape for number 8. Number 7, one of our just shocking performers from our odd block. We were talking about this on Options Oddities show, I should say, with Matt on Friday. We had some just bangers over the course of the past year that just really just ripped their face off. And this was one of them. This was Rigetti. This was in the quantum computing space. We had 2 quantum computing names that were just mind-boggling performers last year. We just broke them down with Matt. Again, another reason why you should be checking out Options Oddities. Just wild stuff. This is one of them. Rigetti, listeners. Man, they are coming for it today. 283,000 contracts on the tape. If you're not familiar with this, listeners, ticker symbol RGTI. This one and some others we talked about on Oddities really took off in all that quantum dust up a few months ago. Google kicked it off. People were wondering, is quantum going to take over? Is it going to break the blockchain? All these things. And all these names got just ridiculously hot, ridiculously fast. Rigetti went from $1.31 on November 19th. By December 19th, it got up to about $11 December 17th. And then by January 2nd, so beginning of this year, it hit $21.5. Just absolutely ridiculous. And now it's right back down to $6.5. So this thing, they giveth and they taketh away, and they're taking away today, off 27% today. Was trading $8.37 this morning. Now $6.5. Good for number 7, 283. The big dog today, listeners, 12,000 of the Jan 7 puts. Looks like we have probably a synthetics. We have the 7 calls going up 12,000 times as well. And then the May 10 calls going up 11,000 times. So if those people who are still believers, I suppose, this is a lot of nonsense. I can't find the prices, but yeah, a lot of crazy stuff going up here for Rigetti. Number 7, number 6, listeners. It's the monster, MSTR, 299, 316, even off 1186, or about 3.75%. So they're coming for the monster today, a little less monstrous today. 299,000 contracts for number 6. Number 5, Palantir, 64.5. Coming for this name lately as well. Off 2 3/4, or about 4%. They were just talking about it. It was in the mid-80s not too long ago, so it's given up, $20, pretty close to it. Yeah, hit that in pretty much right around late December. So it's given up $20 since then, from 84 down to about 64. Man. It's right around people started asking me a lot about Palantir. That's usually when I feel, okay, maybe we're hitting a near-term top, and I caution some people to be cautious, and looks like that was the right way to go. 20 handles off the top for Palantir, 64.5 right now. Number 4, it's AMD, 410, so pretty light day, all things considered, in the single name front. AMD up about $0.50 right now, 116.5. So bucking the trend today. They got as low as 114.41. Number 3 is the fruit company. Mike was just talking about them. 387 is what they're off today, about 1 2/3%, trading 230, about 233 right now. That's close to their low for the day, the 229 3/4. 717,000 contracts on the tape for number 3, so a little bit more respectable for number 3. Number 2 is Tesla, back below $400, 394 1/4, off about $0.50. Maybe the post-election love affair with all things Musk is maybe finally starting to dwindle a little bit as well. Number 2, 1.05 million, and the big dog. They were looking a little bit bigger last week. Seemed like they were about to claw their way back, everything they had lost when the Chinese regulators first started looking askance at them. Number 1 today, NVIDIA, 2.6 million contracts on the tape, 132.5, off about $1 3/4. So over the course of the past, that's over the past month. Today they're off 340 or 2.5%. Over the course of the past month, they shot down to about 128.90, back up to nearly 150 just about a week ago, and now since then have come right back down again. So it's been a tale of ups and downs over the last month, net off about $2 over the past month for NVIDIA. You folks can check out the earnings fund for yourselves on our website, listeners, as I conserve what's left of my voice to head on into the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's do it. By the way, Mr. Rock Lobster, we have our vaunted member in the live chat, the Queen, Options Queen. She says, you guys just need to find a topic that the Rock Lobster knows for the trivia. Well, I tried that, Queen. As you recall, I did questions about woodworking and Bob Vila, and he still got those wrong. So
literally 2 topics for the whole year.
But you still got them wrong.
I've been subjected to endless wrestling and football questions for nigh on 2 years here.
There were like 2 wrestling this past year. There was like 1 football one, which Uncle Mike weirdly went deep on, but it was fun. The Patriots thing. Who knew he was the Patriots guy? That took everyone by surprise. But we all knew you were a Bob Vila guy.
He knows all things football.
I thought this old house, that would be right up your alley. But alas.
Well, I can't believe I suffered with that one, but I sure did.
I can only go so far before Uncle Mike starts coming for me, being like, what are you doing giving the Rock Lobster easy ones?
He gets really I was confused with This Old House or Yankee Workshop. That was my brain froze on it. I said, This Old House or Yankee Workshop. I couldn't remember the Yankee Workshop guy.
Here's an idea.
I think his name was Marv something. Marv.
I have an idea.
All right, go for it.
Why don't we just do option trading trivia questions?
I don't know what those would even entail, like about the Greeks and stuff, or like trades in particular. What would you like them to be?
I don't know, like just something like this exchange became an exchange on this date, or I don't know, things like that. If we can do 80s pro wrestling, we can do option trading.
Questions, but
No, I can't win that. I don't like that. And I'm treading very lightly on the option trading trivia one too, because I'm really not confident I can win 80s option trading trivia.
Say, are you going to know like the launch date of the Board of Trade or all that kind of stuff?
God, I wouldn't even know. I thought it was like 1860, but I could be wrong.
When was the first financial derivative?
But if you made it multiple choice, we could probably have a lot of fun with it.
Oh, maybe. Now you're asking for a lot more work from me. We shall see.
Oh,
We shall see.
Listen, I gave you an 80s a box of cards. Just pick one card, but spin a little thing, roll the dice.
That's not the worst idea ever. I got to see if I can go track down a vintage 80s Trivial Pursuit box. I might have one, actually. We'll see.
Then that might make me look bad if I don't win.
You know, at the very least, you'll have a crack at sports and leisure, Uncle Mike. So you'll just go for that every week. I want orange. I want orange every week.
Oh no! It's got to all be random. You gotta roll that dice. We're just not giving him sports and leisure.
Andrew's entire strategy will be no orange, every color but orange, all pink all the time, baby, all pink. All right, listeners, let's get into some odd paper here. We've been kind of breaking down the year from an odd, and we did so much. Obviously, it takes a while to break it all down and kind of break through some of the interesting trends and trades that stuck out to us. And of course, the Rock Lobster remembers none of it, so I'm also trying to refresh his memory, jog it a little bit as well. So we'll kick things off. We've been breaking down the year. We've gotten to around the April timeframe so far, and I kind of like this. This is fun for me too to kind of go back and revisit what was kind of hot on the show last year, what was interesting to us. As you'll recall, about in April of last year, listeners, another hot one that we were debating a lot on the network and we had a lot of fun with was Peloton. This name just been, at the time, had been just beaten up terribly. In fact, we had a question of the week. The stock was trading around $3 going into their earnings. Maybe it might have been like $3.30, I think. $3.10, $3.20, maybe $3.30. And they were paying like 30 cents, somewhere in that neighborhood, somewhere around 10% for the 1 week to go, 3 puts. That's how crazy and dire things were in Peloton. And we did a question of the week for you folks. We asked you folks, quite simply, would you sell those puts for 30 cents for around 10% of the time? I'll have to find the exact numbers on that poll, but the vast majority of you said, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. We are good on those bad boys. So you wouldn't even sell those puts with the stock close to $3 for 10%. That's how dire things were. Well, we all know it's been a decent run since then. Peloton's had a nice run. They're up about 50%, about $3 over the course of the past year. But from their nadir around that time, around that $3 time, the low they got to was 270, listeners. They hit it a few times in April and looks like in August as well during the sell-off. Since then, they've obviously rallied nearly 3x, so it's been a good run. They got up to about $11, so they did pretty much get over, actually, 3x. At the time, back in April, the Flowmaster was on the show with us, and he was starting to notice some of these prints in Peloton as well. He was noticing it to the upside, though. He saw, at the time, which seemed kind of wild when nobody wanted to sell the 3 puts for 30 cents with, I think it was actually less than a week to go. It might have been like 5 days to go. It was pretty crazy, heading into the earnings, of course. He noticed a big print to the upside, the D710 call vertical. Somebody paid 28 cents for that 20,000 times. Again, it seemed wild. They're paying, now you could have sold those puts and then bought this vertical, I suppose. That's about a 1-to-1 trade. But it seemed wild to us to pay 10% of the value of the stock for you're talking the stock had to more than double, far out of the money vertical. You got most of the year, obviously, but still, it just seemed wild to us. Stock about $3. It looked like initially, it looked like it might have been just straight up opening. Looks like it might have been, in hindsight, a bit of a roll down. Looks like they bought the D10s back in February of the year before for around $1. So they had gotten run over on those when the stock was about $4.50 to $4.75. So then they got run over on those. They bailed on those, rolled them down to the 7s. And lo and behold, Mr. Rock Lobster, however you want to look at it, rolling the 10s down to the 7s, or just straight buying that vertical for 28 cents. Looks like it worked out. Peloton had a good year after that. So if you sold those puts, you did all right, even though you might have been, sweating it a little bit early on. But if you just bought the stock straight up, you did all right. The stock closed in December expiration, $9.38, listeners. So spoiler alert, they took off those 7s a while ago. In fact, so far back that it's been beyond the scanning range of the Flowmaster's platform here. But so they took them off a while ago. So spoiler alert, they made money on this trade. The 10s, there were still a boatload of 10s still open, so they were short those. They let those go, and those ended up working out well as well. Mr. Rock Lobster, I think even you must recall this, the time when all of our listeners were just terrified to sell the Peloton straddle. And then also this kind of wild trade that seemed ridiculous at the time, but in hindsight seems to have worked out in Peloton, sir. What do you think?
Yeah, it's weird because I remember putting Peloton on the list and then I forgot about it because it didn't do anything for like I'm going to say like 4 or 5 months. Didn't we have like a couple of false starts on that? That one?
It was still trading $3 in August, so yes.
Yeah. So it was like, and then I put it on the list, but if it doesn't do anything, I don't care about it. It just, okay, it's a $3 stock and it's going to be a $3 stock forever. But yeah, I do remember, the Flowmaster, they don't call him the Flowmaster because his flow isn't good. We don't call him the Unflowmaster. He's the Flowmaster for a reason. So, but this trade, the calls for sure paid. And, I think Peloton could definitely, it could be I believe it will be a going concern. But guess what the headline is that came out this morning in Peloton? Morgan Stanley raises their price target. Talk about this is an analyst going out on a limb. They raised their target to $5.25 on the stock from $5.
I love analysts. I love analysts.
That's Morgan Stanley.
Okay, so we're already wrong by like over $4, so we'll adjust it a few cents.
We're going to adjust it up a
kick all these guys to the curb. Jesus. Oh, what are we doing?
I would have a lot more. I would have a lot more respect for analysts if they would just buy a one lot of any of their predictions. Just a one lot. Option pit, I do all my own trades at option, every single one. All the stuff I recommend, alert, all that, everyone. Usually somewhere between a 5 and a 25 lot. Every trade. Like, if you're going to put trades out, or you're going to put it, have some skin in the game. At least a one lot, It's so ridiculous.
How these guys still have jobs.
I guess me just railing against the bulge bracket firms today. Plus, I know your voice is in, so I'll go off on a tangent a little bit on that one.
Yes. My thoughts on analyst listeners. Don't get me going, but that's just another example of the great value they bring to the financial markets. Earlier in the year, and June of last year, I should say, we also saw kind of the madness that was Roaring Kitty kind of come roaring back to life in GameStop. Remember, he tweeted that nonsensical image of him sitting up, and that was all it took to set that stock aflame out there. The Flowmaster profiled a lot of flow over that time. In GameStop, talked about some of the interesting things he was seeing out there, so I won't step on his toes with those. And we are kind of coming up against this, so I'll get to Bumble and some of the other fun, I think, on the Thursday show. It is time now for Uncle Mike's, we're not kicking off the new year of the strategy block, let's just say his next array of the strategy block for 2025.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, Uncle Mike, it is time for, I believe, is it your second strategy block? I made you do one on Thursdays. I guess technically it's your third strategy block of the new year. Do you have any thoughts as you look back over the past year of what stands out to you from the strategy block? Any ones that really particularly spring to mind, sir?
Off the top of my head, I do not. I think that a lot of it, I have, just in looking back on it, I have tended to lean a lot more towards hedging strategies, which is ironically what I'm going to talk about today, and just where you can go and what you can do with it. For today, the strategy block, we do have a lot of gains. There's no way around this. And so for today, what I want to go through is just some things that one thing that I am looking at as a hedging technique for 2025. And what it is that I believe that with zero DTEs, we're going to have more VIX spikes in the future than we have had in the past. And I can't prove this. Zero DTEs are more of a new thing, but this is just my theory, and this is what I'm going to be looking for in the new year. The reason is that let's say that if you are looking to sell some, you have a down market. Let's say the market goes down a significant amount, like it did on August 5th. And I'm not talking about a down day like yesterday, like we've had in 2025. This doesn't count. I'm talking about a day like August 5th, in that the market's down 4.5%. When the VIX really should not be up near as much as it was. Now, am I predicting more August 5ths? No, but I do think we're going to have more August 5th-esque type of sell-offs. We're going to get sell-offs no matter what at some stage, but I think that there's going to be times to where there's going to be more option buying that's going to lead to higher option volatility. And so where does that leave us in terms of hedging? Well, what I'm looking at a lot this year, or what I'm going to be doing, not looking at, what I am doing, is instead of hedging with spreads right off the bat, which is something that I've done for many years, I'm actually spending a little bit more money this year and buying some just straight single leg put options. And yes, I understand it's a little bit more money, but we've had a low enough cost of our volatility has been low enough to where I feel I can justify it. Now, what I am looking to do from the standpoint of a hedge will be something along the lines of, if we get an opportunity like we did on August 5th, where the VIX went disproportionately higher than what it theoretically should have based upon the market going down. Now, I know there could be some cases to where you could say, yes, no, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But when we do get a VIX spike, what I am looking to do is potentially sell another put below where I originally got into one and create a very favorably priced put spread. Now, the disadvantage of doing that, of course, is if I don't get my VIX spike, then I paid more money for my hedge than what I wanted to. But if I do get a VIX spike, then I can get the opportunity to create a lower cost hedge. And let's say I miss it, and the market just keeps going lower and lower and lower, and I don't get the VIX spike, the market just keeps going lower. Well, then if that's the case, then what I'm able to do is just enjoy the fact that I had a single leg option on instead of a put spread. So that's some things in which I'm looking at for this year. And I think it's important that if you are hedging a portfolio, that you have that mentality in mind. And in 5 minutes, I'm going to be doing a webinar on hedging. So go to my Twitter page at Mike Tosaw for a link to it.
All right, as we keep going into our final segment, it is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye until our next episode of this program. We're also keeping an eye on our polls. You folks it looks like you're lining up on the Rock Lobster side on our Feb 15 puts versus Jan 17 puts and VIX, both for 26 cents. 50% exactly right now say you want to buy the Jan. 30% say you don't want to touch either. And then 10% each of you want to buy the Feb puts or buy that diagonal for no money, for $0. Kind of interesting. That'll be going through the podcast release later today, so you folks listening after the fact can make your voices heard as well. I know you're always getting mad. How about us? So you are included there. Mr. Rock Lobster, are you surprised that the folks agree with you, and what are you keeping an eye on until the Thursday show, sir?
I'm not too surprised. Those 17 puts are now trading 40 cents, so they're rolling along. We have a little, like I said, without more negative news, the sentiment was a little heavy. And there's huge 46,000 of those puts are trading today. So, I don't, the 15 put looks tough. 15 put might finish in the money, has an off chance, but I think CPI, PPI, and some bank earnings. And I think that will get, and then at the end of the week, we have an inauguration, and we're going to see if we have a Doge in power to somehow make the government efficient. We could all you can hope is that it will be successful.
And where should folks go if they want more Rock Lobster in their lives, sir?
Optionpit.com. If you want a mentor, trader, educator, telling you how to teach you how to trade options, that trades all his own recommendations, although I don't get into them till after I recommend them because that'd be kind of stinky. Go to optionpit.com. You want to just learn how to trade these option things? Give it a whirl. Give it a whirl. Optionpit.com.
You should go be an analyst. You don't have to trade any of your own stuff. You don't have to eat any of your own dog food, and they pay you so much.
I have to say that's of all the things that we probably, the two of us, three of us maybe even agree on. It's hard to.
I look forward to seeing the headline: the rock lobster analyst at some large firm raises his price target to be $4 away from where the stock is trading now.
Yeah,
that's what I want to see. I look forward to that day, sir.
That's going out on a limb, right?
Yeah,
there.
That's very daring of you. In the meantime, listeners, check them out, optionpit.com, to learn more. Uncle Mike, sir, what are you keeping an eye on until the Thursday show?
Well, I mean, I want to see if bonds can continue to hold to where they're at. At some stage, you'd like to think that we're going to get some type of a bond rally in some way, but we are not. So watching that, and then continuing to watch to see, let's see if we get a positive day on the day today. Let's talk up this market, by gosh. Ha!
We shall see indeed. Yeah, as we're coming into the end of the show here, listeners, S&P off about 0.1%, NASDAQ off 0.75%, Dow up 0.2%, and VIX at right around 19.5. So VIX pretty close to where it was to start the show again, but the S&P looking a little better. Dow and NASDAQ both looking slightly better as well. So interesting. Are we at the tip here? Are we going to start turning the other way like we did on Friday? Or is this going to talk itself into a green day out here? We shall see. And you know where to go, listeners, to find Uncle Mike and his webinar, stcharleswealth.com, to learn more. Listeners, go check out his webinar. It's popping off right now, listeners. And that music means we are done for the old OB. But I will be back in a little bit to talk a little bit of crypto, a lot going on. Uncle Mike will be joining me tomorrow to tackle all of your Qs with some As. He hasn't been on the Pro Q&A in a long time. Nearly a year, so that should be a fun time. Check that out tomorrow. If you're on the Pro, start getting those questions in now. That is for you folks out there at the end of the day. So theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Then back again with our usual array of content until we're back again with the Flow Master on Thursday. Another episode of The Option Law. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.